What's up, guys? Welcome back to Simply FPL. It's finally August, so what are we? 12 days from the new season starting. So yeah, I suppose the FPL content will be ramped up from here on in. So what we're going to go through today is seven things to avoid when putting together your team for game week 1. Now, if you've played FPL for many years and you're generally finishing the top couple of percent, a lot of this will be quite obvious to you, so feel free to skip this video if you're a seasoned professional at this game. But some of these tips might be things you've not thought of. So yeah, I've not really got them in any particular order. It's just 7 that I thought of. So yeah, let's just crack into it. First tip, probably actually, although this is not in any particular order, this arguably is one of the most important ones, and it's something I see constantly. So, too much money on the bench. Now, this is actually a bench of a team I've seen floating about on Twitter there. So this person for game week 1 is considering having Alisson, Grealish, Rafinha and Pukki on the bench. Now, I guess the only reason he's got Grealish there is he's maybe assuming he's off to City and has a tough game against Spurs. I'm not sure. But either way, let's just assume this is a real bench for game week 1. You've got there 6 million tied up in Alisson, 8.5 in Jack Grealish, 6.5 in Rafinha, 6 in Pukki. That's over a quarter of your budget just sat on the bench. So, yeah, in the long term, that's not smart. Now, what most people do, and most people that finish in the top, I'd say top 1% each year, they won't have 4 playing subs. Most of the time, they won't even have a playing goalkeeper. So, yeah, you kind of want to make sure you keep all your money on the pitch. Specific to a goalkeeper, now, I'm not a fan of having anything more than a £4 million reserve goalkeeper. Now, I don't mind if someone wants to have like a £4.5 million backup, but every now and then you'll come across a team where they've got like Alisson and, I don't know, like a £5.5 million goalkeeper as well. That means every single week you've got at least £1.5 million extra on the bench that you just don't need there. That's the difference between having, I don't know, like an £8 million. That's the difference between going from a Grealish to a Son every single week. So yeah, having too much money on the bench, it's not a smart idea. So definitely plan your team to have at least one absolute bench fodder. So a player that's never going to play. Because realistically, you're never going to need four playing subs. And also, we've got transfers each week. Like if there's a player you want to bring in a week or two's time to play, you can just plan your transfers around that. You don't need to have him kind of sat on the bench. Number 2, all premiums in one position. So I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, why does that make a difference? Like, I want to have a really strong midfield. So let's just look at this team on screen there. So this team has put every penny into midfield. They've got 4 premiums there: De Bruyne, Son, Salah, Fernandes. To be honest, it's not an awful looking team. Going into game week 1 with that team, you're probably feeling quite confident. The big problem you've got with this is nothing more than the fact if in game week 2, let's say, I don't know, Tony gets injured and you decide, I want to get Harry Kane in. How on earth are you supposed to maneuver that? Like, you're going to have to get rid of a Tony. You're going to have to get rid of at least 2 of the midfielders to get Kane in and have a decent kind of replacement in midfield. The problem with having all your premiums in one position is it just doesn't give you flexibility. If this week, let's say next week, you decide you want to get in Trent Alexander-Arnold and Harry Kane, you're going to need to make like 4 or 5 subs, 4 or 5 transfers just to potentially do that. And even then, your midfield's probably going to be an absolute mess afterwards. So try to, like, you don't need to have a premium in every position. To be honest, last season and probably this season, I'm not going to have a premium striker. But you want to make sure at least 2 of those positions have a premium. So I'd put a more expensive defender in or a more expensive striker. It'll just allow you a bit more flexibility and you won't be tied up as the game weeks go. So look, you might look at a team like this and do really well for one game week, but then all of a sudden you've taken 20 points in hits over the space of 2 to 3 weeks just to try and maneuver the fixtures, and it never works out well. So yeah, generally you want 3 premiums at a maximum to again allow you that flexibility. But if you can spread those 3 premiums around different positions, it's just going to help you throughout the season. Number 3, pay attention to the fixtures. I mean, FPL, we've got 15 players. You can only make 1 transfer a week. So on any given game week, 10 of those 11 players that you've got on the pitch are probably going to have to play again next week. So you need to bear that in mind. And I think looking at Chelsea and Villa are kind of a good example for the start of this season. So looking at Chelsea's first fixture at home to Palace, that's a really good fixture. It's one of the best fixtures you can get in FPL. You might be tempted to load up on Chelsea players, maybe double or treble up on them. It's just not a smart idea, because although they could do really well in game week 1, look at the next 5 fixtures. You've got Arsenal, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Tottenham and City. Like, Chelsea are probably not going to get a huge amount of points in the league in those games, but specific to FPL players, like, you're just not going to score massive returns generally. Now, look, I know what could happen. Chelsea could win all those games 5-0. Yeah, I get that. But statistically speaking, it's probably not going to happen. And similar with Aston Villa. So you just need to make sure that, look, if you are going to target those first 3 fixtures, you realise afterwards they've got murderer's row. I think they've got maybe a run of 6 or 7 fixtures are ropey enough, and you're probably not going to want to hold those Villa players. So yeah, always pay attention to future fixtures, and make sure you plan with 4, 6, 8 game weeks ahead. And again, it'll just allow you to every single week have a good 11. Number 4, save your chips for the double game week. So look, this isn't a hard and fast rule. You can use your chips whenever you want. I mean, last season I absolutely punted my bench boost in like game week 4, and got myself 0 points. But generally, your double game weeks are where you want to use your chips. Now, if you've seen last season, there was 3 or 4 double game weeks, a treble game week in there. If you save your chips for those weeks, you've just got more fixtures. So look, on average, if you have 20 fixtures compared to 10 fixtures, you're probably going to get more points. So using your bench boost, your triple captain, your free hit in those fixtures is always going to be better than using it in a single game week. Now, there will be examples where that's not the case. Like, let's, for instance, say in a double game week, you've got 11 players already, and the next week you've got 4 players playing in a blank game week. Probably might want to use your free hit then, and that will be okay. But generally, you want to plan your chips around double game weeks. Yeah, simple as that. Number 5, unproven FPL assets. Now, Man United fans don't need to freak out. I've not got Sancho up there for any reason other than he's not played in the Premier League before. So, I mean, just using Sancho, maybe he'll turn up and maybe he'll be an absolute world beater this season. But the point is, we just don't know. So if you're going to take gambles, I mean, you want to limit how many of them you do. Like, I remember last season, people were loading up on Chelsea players, Werner, Havertz. There was loads of players that you could make a first 11 up because there were so many transfers done after the season before, and they all blanked. So coming to the Premier League, typically you want to see how a player gets on in the first few game weeks before you rush to get him in your team, just because you don't want to take that gamble in game week 1. You can take the gambles towards the end of the season, but generally, if you mess up game week 1, you go into game week 2 needing to make 4 or 5 transfers, you're pretty much chasing the game for the next 10, 15 game weeks. Like, you might make decisions you wouldn't otherwise make. And again, it generally can stem to something like picking an unproven FPL asset. So look, if you look at a Sancho, for instance, and decide you have to have him, just make sure that the majority of your other players are going to play, but also they've got some sort of history in the Premier League, because I mean, you just don't know what sort of minutes these new lads are going to get, and also when they're on the pitch, what points are going to get you. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Number 6, I guess following on from the unproven FPL assets, is don't gamble in game week 1. Game week 1, like, I always aim just to be in the top million after the first game week. After game week 1 last season, I was in the top 200,000. Captaining Mo Salah when he got the 20-point double to 40-point haul really helped. But then some of my friends in my mini leagues, they take these unnecessary gambles. They'll pack the squad with players they like, but there's not really any logic to it. And then after game week 1, they've got 20, 25 points, and they're already chasing a 40-point deficit. So gambles such as captaining players that have bad fixtures or that potentially won't do as well as other players just because you want to kind of get ahead if it works out well. But also playing players that, similar to the unproven FPL assets, are not necessarily guaranteed minutes. So again, look at Dele Alli there. My opinion, looking at the friendlies for Tottenham, is that he's probably going to get a starting spot at the start of the season. But if I'm going to put him in my team, it is a big gamble. So I want to make sure Like, I don't want to have 5 or 6 of these lads who are not guaranteed minutes and then only end up fielding 7 players in week 1. So just bear that in mind. If you have the chance to put a safe pick in game week 1 over an out-and-out gamble, you'll probably have a more fun season. There's nothing worse than ruining the entire season in game week 1. It makes it a lot less fun to play. Finally, number 7. This could be one of the most important ones, but position matters. And what I mean by that is FPL is not the same as just watching the Premier League. Like, use Kante for an example. World-class player. Pretty much every team in the world, in world football, probably want him in their first 11. He is a horrible FPL player. Problem is his position. He's a CDM, so he doesn't get the benefit of clean sheets, but he also very rarely gets attacking returns. So he's almost useless when it comes to this game. You're probably going to get 1, 2, or 3 points most weeks, and it's just not worth having him in your team. Similarly, look at the likes of Stuart Dallas there. Last season, one of the most important players in the game. If you had him from week 1, you were probably laughing all the way to the end of the season. This season, he's going to be the least important player in the game. Reason for that is last season he was down as a defender, so every goal he got was worth 6 points. Every clean sheet that his team kept, he'd get an extra 4, which again just really helped with the bonus points. He was getting double-digit hauls all the time. Now he's been reclassified as a midfielder. His goals are going to be worth a point less. His clean sheets are going to be worth 3 points less. And in essence, he's going to lose a ton of points because of that. So, yeah, 5.5 million, I think he is, using him as an example. Probably not going to be worth it. His bonus points are going to dry up as well, which were a huge part of his game last season. And there's always going to be better £5.5 million midfielders out there. Similar with St. Maximin. Newcastle fans obviously love him. Really great player. But he's just been reclassified as a striker. Similar to what Aubameyang did last season. And again, you lose your point for the clean sheet. You lose a point for a goal. And then your bonus points are a little bit less as well. So you just got to bear that in mind, that when you're picking your team, you want to make sure that the position they've been classified in the game is going to get you some points. Well, that was a quick fire 7 points to pay attention to when building your team. So yeah, if I've missed any out, let me know. Let me know what you think of the importance of those 7. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy, guys.